Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. With Stephan Shaw stepping into the main event on January 14th against F.A. Ajagba, there's a new opponent for Guido Vianello, and that is in the form of American Jonnie Rice. So this card by Top Rank taking place at the Turning Stone Casino in Verona, New York, and it's a good double header. I've covered the main event in another video, this one focusing on Vianello and his new opponent Jonnie Rice. This is a pretty decent fight, but it's going to become pretty clear who I think is going to win. And I'll say up front, I don't really rate Guido Vianello, what he's done recently, and I'll explain why. So in terms of Vianello, you've got a guy who's got a record currently of 10-0-1. In recent years, he's fought Jay McFarlane. That was his most recent opponent. That was in Rome just a few months ago. He got a decision, but he didn't look great. It was a pretty pedestrian effort overall against McFarlane, who was out of shape and really didn't offer too much. There's been a couple of wins against journeymen also, and that followed what was a draw against Kingsley eBay. Arguably, he lost that fight. And I gotta say that Jonnie Rice is levels above Kingsley eBay. And given what Vianello has done recently, I don't really sort of rate his chances in this fight. Jonnie Rice, meanwhile, to the uninitiated with his record of 15-6-1, might be considered a guy that should have no business in this fight. But that record belies the fact that he's been an improving fighter who's actually had the best couple of years of his career, the best couple of wins against of his career against Michael Polite Coffey. He was on that PBC diet of one fight a year in the past 2 years. 2021 upsets Michael Polite Coffey, and then he repeats in 2022. And good performances by Rice, and obviously he's been an improving fighter in recent years, and he's been getting better and better and better. More confidence as he's gone on, and with those wins over Coffey, he's found some internal belief, some confidence in his ability, and Jonnie Rice has one of the best right hands in the heavyweight division. It's very clean, very crisp, very straight, and it can really do some damage. And with Jay McFarlane having some success against Vianello in spots in their fight a few months ago, including landing some shots, also landing a couple of right hands, I just think that Jonnie Rice is going to be too much for Guido Vianello. I think he's going to find the target, and I think he's going to hurt him and potentially put Vianello on the back foot to the extent that he doesn't want to engage as much and he starts losing rounds, and Rice canters to a decision, or Rice could actually turn his lights out for good. I've sort of speculated recently that I think Top Rank won after the eBay performance, where clearly he lost that, but he was given a gift draw. And 2, after some of the recent performances, and including the McFarlane one, I think Top Rank is just willing to sacrifice Vianello at this point. They're just like, you have to sink or swim. We're giving you a pretty tough matchup originally in Shaw, who was, I think, going to dog walk him. But now Jonnie Rice. It's not much easier than Stephan Shaw. And I think Rice is going to boss this one, and I think he's going to win the fight. I know that Vianello has had, some amateur pedigree. He was an Olympian, but as an amateur, he was never the best around. He was okay, but no more. And as a prospect in the heavyweight division, he really hasn't shown us anything for us to go, wow, this guy is going to be a world beater. Despite having actually quite a few admirers saying Vianello is talented and will do something, I think he's going to run into the brick wall that is Jonnie Rice, who is going to actually turn his lights out. But one thing that has to happen for Rice to do that, he's going to have to go some rounds, and he's going to have to be in good condition. Remembering, he's been called in at short notice, so where is his conditioning at? He was at 283 pounds for the Michael Polite Coffey rematch, and I thought that was a bit heavy, and both those guys looked gassed in spots in that fight. And because both were gassed, it didn't really sort of have an effect on how things panned out in the end. Vianello is going to be in much better condition than Michael Polite Coffey was for that rematch. So I do think that Jonnie Rice he has to have some decent conditioning because it will go rounds. And we've seen before, actually, against Dempsey McKean. Jonnie Rice, in my view, was winning that fight. Ultimately, he was too heavy at 282 pounds. He gassed late in that fight, and he got caught late in that fight and taken out. The judges would have you believe from the official scorecards that Dempsey McKean was well up on the cards, but that wasn't the fight that I think many of us saw that night. Jonnie Rice, now that he's got belief, now that he actually thinks he can foot it with some of the best heavyweights in the division, that he can actually go somewhere and do something, I think he's going to go into this fight with confidence and really look to use that jab, use that right hand, and try to put Guido Vianello to sleep, or at least, at the very least, hurt him badly. And that's most likely going to be from a right hand crunching into the side of his jaw. So I think this is a good fight for Jonnie Rice. I don't actually know why he's left PBC. Was his deal up? Was it just a case that there was no more fights, or had the length of the contract come up? Because I thought he had at least one more fight with them, but obviously he's been sort of parachuted into this one, which is good for him, especially 2 fights in the past 2 years. That's only 2 paydays. So to get an early fight in 2022, and if he can get a good win, that could put him into something much bigger and better. Who knows? Maybe he could end up fighting the winner of the main event, Stephan Shaw versus F.A. Ajagba. Actually, he's already fought F.A. Ajagba. So if Shaw wins and Rice wins, I wouldn't mind seeing that. And actually, I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch of Rice versus Ajagba, because when they had that fight, Rice was just a bit too cautious. It ended up going the distance, but he didn't work enough. He seemed a little bit hesitant because he was worried about what was coming back. And of course, Ajagba is a big puncher, so he does have that effect on some people. But there has been a shift in the mindset and the confidence of Jonnie Rice. So I think he could go on to actually face F.A. Ajagba again and put a better account of his skills and ability forward in a rematch. But then again, he's got to get through this fight first. You can't rule out Guido Vianello completely, but he's looked pedestrian in recent years. And I did wonder, when I was doing a little bit of research for this fight, have they actually sparred before? Because both did live and train in Vegas at one point at the same time. So you have to ask that question. Are they known to each other? And if so, maybe that will nullify things a little bit, because sometimes when you haven't, you've only seen a little bit of film and tape and you haven't been in front of the guy, it can be quite different. But in terms of Vianello, he's been getting some good sparring. Solomon Dakers, also Fraser Clark in the last few weeks. And actually in recent months, Vianello has done a lot of sparring in the UK. Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, there's others. So he's got, good preparation. He has decent skills. There is a question mark about how far he can go and how much ability he's actually got, at least for me. I've just sort of seen his recent fights. The eBay performance was the one that turned me off, and I was just like, no, he hasn't got it. He's going to get beaten. He actually did get beaten in that fight, but just got lucky with the draw. Top Rank has provided him that opportunity, this opportunity after that fight with Jay McFarland, and it sort of is make or break for Guido Vianello. If he's truly going anywhere, he needs to put a performance in now and prove that he deserves to sort of go on to that next level. At the moment, he's just sort of coming towards the end of his prospect sort of phase of his career. Can he really sort of foot it at a fringe contender level? Big question mark. But I'm expecting Jonnie Rice to win. How about you? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.